Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this webinar this morning brought to you by Brent for Business. This morning, we're going to be talking about how you as businesses in Brent are coping with the current situation and also giving you lots of advice and guidance from our great panel of experts here this morning. Now, this webinar is brought to you, as I say, by Brent for Business, which is the local authorities support programme for businesses across the borough. So today we want to hear from you. This is your opportunity to talk to the people and ask your questions. The good news is you don't have to wait on the end of a phone to get your call answered. You don't have to send an email and wonder if you'll ever get a response. People are here today and they can take your questions live during the next hour. So we do want you to interact with us this morning, and it's great that we've got so many of you watching, and you can do that a number of ways. If you go to your taskbar in Zoom, you will see that there's a Q&A button. Now that's where you can type your questions, and I will put your questions to our panelists. And if you want to, you can also ask your question direct, and you do that by pressing the button and raising your virtual hand. That will tell me that you are waiting and you'd like to ask your question direct, and I'll invite you to come onto the webinar and verbally ask that question. There's also a chat function. This is really useful, so I'd recommend that you open that chat function and keep it open on your screen. That's where the panelists can chat to you off air, and they can also share information. So during the next hour, we'll be using that chat function, and you can use it too. You can make comments about what's being said, or you can share information that you might well be aware of as well. Now, we will be circulating that chat conversation to all of you that are watching at the end, so that you will have that information to refer back to. And also this morning, this video is being recorded. This webinar, sorry, is being recorded and will be made available as a video. So again, if you missed something, or if you know someone that wanted to watch this morning but were unable to, you will be able to access that via the Brent for Business portal. So without further ado, what I'd like to do this morning is to just introduce you to our lineup of panelists. With me this morning, we have Paul Hadfield. Paul is the Economic Development Manager for the London Borough of Brent. And also from the London Borough of Brent is Ruby. And Ruby is the Town Centre Manager for Wembley and Ealing Road. And actually, Brent has 4 Town Centre Managers that look after the various high streets. And as we know, this is a really important part of any local economy, the businesses that are on our high streets. And Brent has a number of them. And Ruby will be able to help all small businesses within those high streets this morning. Also with us is Rifat Jan. Rifat works for a company called Newable. And Newable have recently announced a small business resilience team, which has been funded by the JP Morgan Foundation. This was launched in May, and Rifat and the team are available to give you free business advice, particularly for SMEs. So we'll be hearing from Rifat about how that looks, but she'll be available to you this morning, and then you can pick up with her directly afterwards. Now, for all businesses at the moment, our staff are a really important part of who we are, and I'm delighted that this morning we're joined by Lance Hobbs. Now, Lance Hobbs works for the HR department, and at this time, many of us are grappling with the many different changes to the HR rules and procedures, and most particularly those that relate to our staff, whether we're furloughing them, not furloughing them, when we're bringing them back, how we should bring them back, should we be making them redundant. And this morning, Lance is here and can give you all of those answers to those many, many questions. So again, just to reiterate that we would encourage you all to put your concerns and questions to these panelists. Also, we are expecting Dan Copsey, who's the relationship manager from NatWest, to join us partway through this. So if you have particular questions with regards to your finance and the various loans that are available, we're hoping that Dan will be with us shortly to answer those questions live. So that's who's here this morning. Start thinking about those questions, start putting those questions into the Q&A and start chatting to us. And I'm going to kick the whole thing off this morning by inviting Paul to just tell us what's actually happening, what the London Borough of Brent is up to, and how the London Borough of Brent is helping the businesses. Hi, Paul.
Hi there, Catherine. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, as Catherine mentioned, I'm the Economic Development Manager at Brent Council, and we're very aware that there's a large numbers of businesses which are suffering from the impact of the COVID-19 virus. And while some of them have received grants, many haven't received grants. I wanted to briefly give you an overview of what the council's been doing to support businesses. So we have been awarding businesses with emergency grants to support them through the immediate shocks of the crisis, and we've awarded a total of 3,867 grants over the previous weeks, and this amounts to just over £65 million going towards supporting businesses in the borough. So the council is processing hundreds of grants every day. Around 87% of all the businesses who are eligible for grants have received grants now, and these are businesses which qualify for the Small Business Grant Scheme and businesses in the leisure, hospitality and retail sector. So these are all government grants which the council is administering. We're also providing a business rates holiday for all the businesses in the borough, for retail, hospitality and leisure businesses, and that's for the current financial year. We're doing a lot of work which is just about responding to businesses which are worried and concerned, and providing some reassurance, and providing a lot of the information which is coming out so rapidly from government as to kind of support which is out there, and the issues which are coming up. We've moved our business support and our Brent for Business events program online, and this webinar is part of that. So we're now starting this monthly webinars, and we're also been working with our partners in the Federation of Small Business to run business networking events every fortnight. And we're doing some work around helping local businesses access opportunities in the construction sector, and we have a Meet the Buyer event later in the year, and a business expo which is planned to take place early next year. We're doing a lot more in terms of increasing our communications with businesses. We've got a business newsletter, which I hope many of you have already signed up to. It goes out to around 6,000 businesses, over 6,000 businesses, and we're sending that newsletter out twice a week with all the latest information in terms of business support and issues. We've been undertaking a business survey to measure the impact of the crisis on local businesses, and then using that to lobby government on the issues for businesses. So highlighting what businesses need and identifying the gaps in support. And we hosted, or the FSB hosted with us, a webinar a couple of weeks ago with our Dawn Butler MP, which was an opportunity to raise concerns about government support. And finally, I just wanted to mention that we are currently developing a new discretionary grant, and this grant is aimed at small businesses who have not been eligible for grants to date. So this is some additional funding which has come towards the council. It's not a huge amount of funding. It's about 3.5 million is Brent's allocation, and this is only around 5% of the grants which we've administered to date. So it's good news, but it is important to note that there won't be enough money to stretch beyond maybe 200 to 300 grants these are small grants of between 5,000 and 25,000 per business. So we are aiming to launch this scheme in mid-June, as our other boroughs across London. And we will announce the application process through our newsletter, through the Brent Council's website, and through our social media channels. But you can also register interest in the grant by emailing the council at business@brent.gov.uk. So that's just a brief overview of the kind of things that we've been doing.
Right, thank you, Paul. We've immediately got a question, actually, and I think you've sort of answered it. But maybe you could just pop in the chat that business address, because I have a question from a lady who runs a business, Acupuncture by Raquel, and she's saying that she wasn't eligible for the self-employee scheme, and basically hasn't had any funding, so has been sort of 2 months without any income, and obviously she's hoping that she would be one of those businesses that have fell between the gaps of the current funding who could apply. And I hear what you say, a word of caution that it's not a huge sum of money that you're giving out. But I guess what she might be thinking is, well, is that going to be on a first come, first serve basis? So is it sort of a race to the finish? And then when the money runs out, it runs out? Or are you able to give any guidance on this? Is it like, you quickly send that email now? Well, what should they be doing?
What I would advise is, yes, send an email and we will register you as a business that is interested, and we will, as soon as the guidance comes out, then we will we'll notify you, and yes, get the application in as soon as possible, because to some extent there will be it will be a first come, first serve basis, but you will need to meet criteria, and not every inevitably not every business will qualify for that criteria.
And a question that's coming from Hartley, he's asking, are you going to prioritise businesses that have not had any support at all for this new grant? That is the priority, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so it isn't actually available if you've received any other funding. That's not available to you. Just going back to the, sorry.
Not if you've received government grants. Okay. So you might have received a loan, but it's if you haven't qualified for the government grants.
Right. Okay. So a loan's fine, but it's the government.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great. Just coming over to Ruby, because again, this lady may well be in one of your high streets, and the advice from you, I'm sure, would be to make contact with her town centre manager, because you can presumably be giving her help and guidance and helping her through the whole sort of discretionary grant fund. Is that right? Tell us a bit more about your role and how you support these businesses.
So Brent is really lucky to have town centre management, because obviously the local economy has actually been at the forefront, not just from now, but at the forefront for many years, for the last 6 years, to ensure that, if there is a downturn in the economy, that there is someone there that can actually talk to small businesses and divert them onto the right tracks and give them the right advice. So what I would say to businesses, there are town centre managers across Brent. I look after Wembley and Ealing Road, and I've been getting lots of queries from businesses in Kingsbury and Sudbury as well. I'm happy to speak to anyone that needs any advice. It's not just Wembley and Ealing Road. I'm really conscious that a lot of small businesses are really worried and concerned about how they're going to cope right now and in the next three to 4 months. So I really would like to encourage them to talk to me and to the others, and I'll give all the details to you afterwards. But it's a hand-holding in terms of making sure that business rates have the right information about them. There have been, so for example, we managed to actually get estate agents to receive grants who were previously logged down as offices and premises. There were some anomalies in some of the ways in which some of the businesses are registered on the VOA database, and we were able to turn that around in order to actually help as many other businesses as possible. So it's worth just getting in touch. If you are a little bit concerned and you're not sure why you were rejected and you want to have a talk to someone in person and not just an email, then I'm available to anyone who wants to chat later on today.
That's great. And I know that many local authorities no longer have these town centre managers. It's something that many local authorities have cut back on. And I think, hats off to Brent for having that network still in place because it's, it's always a very important facility, but now more than ever with this crisis. I'm sure people are very grateful that Brent have kept that network of advisors in place. So perhaps you could just pop your contact details, Ruby, in the chat. We will come back to you because I know we want to move on a little bit later to talk about the fact that many businesses are opening and high streets are hopefully going to start to come back to life in the next week or so. But I just want to move over to Rufet. Hi, because I know that what you're offering is an extra advisory service, and it is free. And I particularly wanted to just draw your attention to a question that's come in from Joy Stewart, who's in the process of setting up facilities as a semi-independent living accommodation, basically wanting some help and guidance to help. How does he set this up within the community? And he wants to be a role model for maybe young people. I guess start with you, Rufi, because he could actually have that conversation with you and you could help him. Is that the type of thing you could do?
Absolutely, yes. So I work for Newable as a business advisor, and we've been set up since May as part of a small business resilience team. We're fully funded by JP Morgan Foundation, and that's one of the reasons why we're able to offer this free business support. So in this example with Joy, what we're able to do is guide this person through the development of their business plan, help them look at their cash flow, exactly how they need to raise the funds, how they can actually get hold of this money as well, and how it should be spent. And then guide them through the process of developing the whole the business right through to the end. And we're offering one-to-one business coachings. A lot of businesses have to reinvent themselves. They've got brick and mortar shops. Footfall will drop, no doubt. With social distancings of 2 meters, they won't really achieve the turnover that they were used to before. So it's also about thinking outside the box, and that's where we come in as well, and we can help them, support them on the online side, helping them to set up on the social media strategy, all the digital training that they need, and maybe even thinking about new ways. So perhaps if they have been selling in the shop, maybe it's time to move online and set up a website and help them communicate and network within their own area as well. They don't need to far reach and spend loads of advertising money. There's lots of business to business how they can network, and we're helping to guide them through that and reaching customers in a new way that they've not thought about. So it may result in some having to close down their shop, but if they've got stock and they've got the know-how and the experience, it's how best to utilize that in a different way so we can help them.
Right, absolutely. Ruby, I think you wanted to come back in?
I just wanted to say that obviously online is absolutely critical, especially if there is a second rise of the disease, which scientists are predicting. So I would really encourage, I'm going to be working with Refat after this, but I really would encourage businesses to start looking at other ways, other technologies and other ways in which they can actually increase their commercial profitability after this post-epidemic.
Great, that's lovely. Paul, I know you're answering via the chat, but just for those of you that haven't accessed that chat, the email again for the discretionary grant is business@brent.gov.uk, and that Paul has put that into the chat. Just before I move over to Lance from the HR department, just picking up on a question around business rates. We've got Hartley is saying that he's a new business, not yet opened, he's a nursery. Business rates are demanding payment. Because he's not in operation. How can he pay this with no income? I think I'm right in saying, Paul, that business rates there is a business rates holiday. He does not need to pay that. Am I right?
There is a business rates holiday, but I will. I'll need to look into that with business rates because it's not for everybody.
Yeah. Okay. But I think the general guidance. Yeah, if you take that back offline, I know that general guidance is in this current climate. Businesses have got some safety net in that they can request payment holidays across a number of different bills. Welcome to Dan, Business Relationship Manager from NatWest, who looks like Dan, you look like you're working from your car this morning. Is that right?
I am correct. Yeah, I've had to drop a family member to an appointment. So so I'm.
Right, well, we really appreciate you joining us.
That's all right.
So if you have questions around funding, around loans, then please, Dan's with us now, and we'll come to him shortly. I'm going to move over to Lance from the HR department. Morning, Lance. I'm sure you have never been busier than you have in the last few months. Now, I think we're both trying to unmute you. So, yeah, that's lovely. And I know that the latest announcement around the job retention scheme probably needs a little bit of further explanation. So over to you. Tell us what we should be doing about our furloughed staff.
Right. Well, thank you. Good morning, everybody. In terms of furloughed staff, most of you will probably be aware of the job retention scheme now, hopefully anyway. It's been in the public for quite a while now. The Chancellor announced last Friday changes to the job retention scheme. And what it means effectively is that if you want to furlough your employees, you have to have done so by the 10th of June in order for them to hit the 3 weeks that takes them to the end of June in order for them to still be included. So if you haven't furloughed staff by the 10th of June, you cannot furlough them after that date. So let's just make that one clear. Second thing is that the employers are going to have to start paying towards the furlough scheme. And what that means effectively is that from the 1st of August, employers will have to pay the employer's national insurance contributions and pension contributions and can no longer claim them through the job retention scheme. Now that is effectively 5% of the 80% that we're talking about. From 1st of September, the government will reimburse 70% of salary, and that's up to a maximum of £2,190. And employers are required after that to top up to 80% or more if you have been topping up, depending on what you agreed with the employee. So you may want to revisit the top up to see if it's still affordable for you. Excuse me. From 1st of October, the government is going to reimburse 60% of salary. So that's up to a maximum of £1,875. And employers will continue to have to top up to 80% or again, more if that's agreed. So that's the new scheme that the Chancellor introduced. And of course, after October, there is no more job retention scheme.
Can I just pick up on the part-time working? Because I know there's been a change in that. And also just going back to this 10th of June deadline, presumably businesses need to be thinking now about maybe they haven't furloughed everybody up until now, or maybe there's some people that they want to take off furlough and put other people onto furlough. But the key thing here is that they have to have furloughed anybody they might want to at any point between now and the end of October. They have to have actually instigated that by the 10th of June. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because of the 3 weeks period that you have to be furloughed for in order to claim it back. 10th of June takes you to the end of June, which is the closure date for new furloughed staff. Nobody else will be allowed in after that date.
Does that mean that you could, if you had an employee that wasn't currently furloughed, you could put them on furlough before the 10th of June? And I think is a minimum of 3 weeks. So
minimum of 3 weeks, yes.
A furlough for minimum of 3. You could then bring them back in an either part-time or full-time capacity, and then you could furlough them again. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So if they have been furloughed by the 10th of June, you can put them on and take them off furlough through the rest of the scheme. What you can't do after 10th of June is put somebody new into the furlough scheme. So yes, there's also the part-time option, which was, businesses have been campaigning for all the way through to say, well, actually, we have got some work for people to do, but it's not a full-time. And now the Chancellor has said, yes, you can actually do that. You can part-time, bring people back part-time, but keep them on furlough for part-time as well from 1st of July.
Okay. I mean, I think that's really important, because as businesses are considering reopening, what that might mean to them, it's a bit of an unknown, and particularly if you're a retail business in the high street, it's an unknown as to how busy you might be, how many staff you might want. So by taking this option, you could give yourself that flexibility, and you could effectively be doing shift patterns whereby you might have somebody working 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, through to the end of October in effect. So all good things to be considering in terms of how you want to bring your business forward. There is a question Lance, that's just come in around guidance. We're all looking to bring our staff back in the next few weeks. There's obviously a lot of concerns. There's a lot of health and safety issues for business to address. And they're saying, can you provide any guidance on, how they should be doing this? Is there a questionnaire that they should be asking their employees to fill in? Can you help us out on that?
Yeah, certainly. I'll caveat it with I'm not a health and safety expert. So but we do have a health and safety sister company that can help with these things. So if you really do need some help and support with it after I've given my view, then please do get in contact. But essentially, first of all, if people can work from home, they should still be working from home. So you don't necessarily have to bring people back if they can work from home. That's the first thing. Second thing is to make sure that you carry out a risk assessment, COVID-19 specific risk assessment for your business. And like I say, we can help with that. You've got to make sure that there are hygiene standards in place. So do you have your stations for washing hands, hand sanitizers, and things like that? Maintain social distancing in the workplace as well. So you've got to find a way that you can maintain social distancing where possible to keep people safe, because people are going to be wondering when they do come back to work, is it actually safe to come back? So if you want them back, you've got to try and make sure that you keep people safe. And also managing transition risk, which is effectively trying to introduce things like PPE. Are you going to ask people to wear masks, gloves? Are there going to be perspex screens up? And I think we can hear a bit more about that from other panelists about how you might be able to get hold of that sort of thing. Also things like staggering shifts. So whilst traditionally you may have worked 9 to 5 in an office, you may now want to say to some people, we'll bring you back early, an early shift and a late shift, so that people aren't mixing together as much as they were previously, things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I'll put my details in the chat anyway, so people can get in contact.
Right. And in terms of the health and safety element of the HR department, I just want to give that a shout out, because you have actually come up with a special 3-month program that a small business can sign up to, and have that service sort of sat alongside them, holding their hands. Is that right, Lance?
Yes, absolutely right. And it'll depend on the size of your business as to the cost of it, because it's done on a per head basis and on a requirements basis. So it's bespoke to the individual business. But yes, there is an option there to get you through this current crisis, especially when people are starting to come back to work. We can provide information and support you over that short period of time.
Can I just ask about the contractual situation? I know that it's always good to keep a paperwork trail, but just this question of if you're bringing your staff back, getting them to sign something contractually that says they feel comfortable about coming back, that they understand, that you have done everything that you need to do as an employer. Is that a good idea? Because, they could contract COVID-19, maybe not necessarily by coming back to work, but how would you recommend that's being handled?
Well, I think the best thing is employers keep their communication lines open and tell all their employees exactly what they're doing and how they're going to keep them safe. Yes, you can get people to sign to say that they feel comfortable to return, but it's not an essential thing, because actually the burden is mostly on the employer to make sure it's a safe working place anyway. The environment they're coming back to is safe, but also it's up to those individual employees. So everybody has a duty under health and safety legislation to make sure that things are kept safe. So when employees do come back, they still have to maintain the social distance. They have to do as the employer asks them to do when they're in the workplace. Otherwise, it could be a breach of the health and safety rules. So yeah, you could get them to sign something, but I don't think it's absolutely essential for employees to sign to say they feel comfortable coming back. It's about having dialogue and conversation if somebody doesn't, to ask why and try and reassure them that actually the best things in place are there. But also if employees have suggestions as to how it could be even better, then for employers to listen to those suggestions and perhaps implement them if they can.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Dan, just before I come to Dan, we have launched a poll. We'd be really grateful if those that are watching this morning could just take a couple of seconds to tell us how confident they're feeling about your business surviving. Answers from 1 to 10 being 10 being the most confident, Tell us how you're feeling so we can gauge the mood this morning. And then we will be running this survey again when we do our next webinar, so that we can just sort of gauge how you're all feeling at the moment. Whilst you're doing that, I'm going to invite Dan to come into the conversation. Dan, you've been at the front end of, I'm sure, the C bills and the B bills loans.
Yeah.
And there are still many businesses out there that are struggling financially. What's the latest update that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, so I think currently at the moment it's all about the bounce back loan. This is the one that's followed after the C-bills loan, as they're saying. Bounce back loan, brilliant product. It's a 6-year term loan. You don't pay anything for the first year, so the government pay the capital and the interest back for you. After a year, the interest kicks in and it goes to a fixed rate for the rest of the term of 2.5%. Good thing is about these loans, you can clear them at any time. So for argument's sake, if you did take the loan and you cleared it within 6 months, you'd only pay the money that you paid back. So there's no extra early repayment charge. Now, the caps on that, any businesses really that have been trading before the 1st of March 2020, and the maximum level on that, because this is completely unsecured borrowing, so business owners don't even need to put a personal guarantee up. The maximum that you can do is up to 50,000 or 25% of your turnover. So, for example, if you've only got 100,000 turnover a year, you could only do 25,000 of that as the new borrowing. But that is guaranteed by the government. It's literally a 10-minute application quite quickly, and literally we can get paid out within 4 days. So, for me personally, I think that's the best kind of loan out there at the moment. If anyone needs any more, then obviously the bank do need to look at kind of security, if they got any property to put up, that sort of thing to secure that. So it will still be done as a kind of traditional lending, I think anything over 50,000. But I think any business that's not really trying to maximise that up to 50,000, especially with a bounce back loan, it's unsecured, you don't have to give a personal guarantee. It's a great opportunity to get some low lending and really inject that into the business to help support it through this and also get these guys to the next level.
Yeah. So just going back to the lady from the acupuncture clinic, obviously she's a very small business, maybe just a sole trader, but she could still apply for the bounce back loan. She
would be able to, yeah. So it's applicable to sole traders, people with partnerships, limited companies. It's available to everyone. So yeah, sole traders is definitely. Just remember, the amount that's borrowed is going to be drilled really on her turnover. Now, what I say to a lot of clients is don't base your turnover on this year, because for the last 3-4 months, there might have been nothing coming in. Do it on what you would have projected for the year, putting coronavirus to the side for a second. So, or try and be a bit generous. And obviously, because that's the key driver for the lend. So if you're a bit more generous with the turnover, it might allow you to be able to do that, because they're not doing full affordability checks or double checks in the background, really.
You're not having to give full accounts, or you're not having to...
Don't need to provide any of that, yeah.
The key to this, though, is you obviously do have to pay it back.
Yeah,
so at some point, it's going to become due. And so as part of your business planning, you obviously need to make sure that in a year's time, when that money is due, that you can then pay it back. And what would happen if you couldn't pay it back?
Yeah, so you would then go into, as I mentioned, the loan term's 6 years. So the first year you don't pay anything. After that, you're on a fixed rate of 2.5% for the remaining 5 years. So if you never pay it back and you just carry on the loan till the end, after the first year, you'll do an additional 5 years at a fixed rate of 2.5%. So you don't get lending that low in business terms. I think we all know that. So it's a great opportunity. And remember, you can clear it at any time, and there's absolutely no earlier payment charges, as well as if you wanted to make overpayments into it as well to reduce the monthly payment to help with the cash flow.
Well, I know that the lady has some concerns about paying it back. I think our advice to her this morning would be maybe to come and talk to you, maybe to come and pick up renewable with Tarifa. Maybe there's other things that she could do to help on that. So that's really helpful.
I'm happy to share my details around to everyone. So if anyone's got any questions or any personal things that they want bubbling, just give us a shout, and I'll be more than happy to talk them through, or at least point them in the right direction of where they need to go.
Yeah, that's great. Just coming back to you then, Refit. I mean, I know that this whole business planning for the next probably 18 months to 2 years is really important, isn't it? And if you take these loans on, being confident, or that you can be in a situation that you're taking a loan that you can pay back. Is this an area that you can help with in terms of looking at finances more long term?
Absolutely, yes. So, if they've been able to secure a loan, we want to help them best use that loan. And it may be investing in new stock. It might be in investing this money in advertising. It might be, taking on a small agency to help them to transform their business. And, it will be a short-term sort of a bit of a pain. Oh, I'm spending all this money when I'm not making any money. But we'll be looking ahead at the projections as well, what they can make, and and finding ways of how they can increase their turnover in different ways. And then the idea is that they will be in a position, in a much healthier position in a year's time or 2 years' time, that they can sustain their business and be able to pay back the loan and be in a stronger position overall. And that's where we can guide them.
So the loan obviously could be used for everyday living expenses. That'd be one reason why you might need the loan at the moment. But you're recommending as well that that loan is seen as an investment, and they would use that money to invest into the business to hopefully encourage them to to build their business over the next year, to put them in a place where they could then be in a position to start paying them back. I'm just going to bring Dan back in on that, because you're nodding. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
I would, definitely agree. That's a great opportunity. I've had a lot of clients where they're like, look, the coronavirus, it hasn't hugely affected us, but I've got this opportunity to take this loan, and I'm actually looking to put this towards a premises or inject it into the business. I had another customer that was a commercial cleaner. He's like, well, funny enough, I'm looking to go into like a facilities side as well. So that's going to be funds that are going to go in, and it's going to support the business and take it to the next level, which is quite right. So customers, all different reasons, to be honest. A lot of them are using that loan for their full benefits. It's there, the government have offered it, why not take advantage of it, really?
I think that's a really good advice, because there are many businesses that aren't suffering that badly for various reasons, but that doesn't stop them still accessing this loan and using it as a way to invest and build their business. And as you say, it's probably a one in a lifetime chance to get a loan at such a good rate, such good terms. So why not take it? And I know a number of businesses who have done just that and are using it for business development.
The businesses that are doing well are the ones that have got cash behind them. They've got money in their account to fall back on. They're the ones that are utilising this opportunity to really invest into their business and grow it. The businesses that kind of survive, I think, right on the breadline, they're the ones that have actually, they need that loan in order to survive. So it just highlighted to me that, as we have a saying as in business and commercial banking, that cash is king. Cash is king in the business. If you've got money and you're looking to purchase something else, why not borrow that while you're doing that and leave the rainy day fund? Because you never know when something like this or anything else that's going to go wrong. It's them people that have got the cash rich in that background, that have built up that cash flow and kept that at a good level. They're the ones that are not panicking now. So it's a learning curve, really, I think, moving forward as well.
And what would the payment be? Or when you was the sort of, if you had the 50 grand maximum, what would that be?
Off the top of my head, because I haven't got the system with me, I think it's about 400, 450 roughly a month, give or take.
Quite a small amount of money then in real terms. Have to find.
The interest you pay per year is £1,250 per year. Interest on 50,000 if you took 50,000. So
so it's very good. Is there a limit for the bounce back loans? I've got a question here. And how long are these going to go on? Are they open? Do we know?
We haven't been briefed with this. A client told me the other day that he rumoured that it's going to go on till November, but I really wouldn't hold me on that kind of date. But it's something that you can put into having the pipeline and sitting there, even if you draw it early, and just have it there for an emergency, really.
Okay, really good advice. And Dan's contact details. Dan, if you could put your contact details in the chat, that would be great, because a number of people are saying how can they pick up and speak to you.
Do I do that through the Q&A? Should I put it in
well, either, but if you use the chat button, because we'll be circulating the chat dialogue to all attendees.
Okay.
So go back to it. You pop your contact details into that. Now, I do have somebody who has raised their hand, and they want to ask a question to the audience, to the panelists, and it's Keaton. And I'm just going to unmute you, Keaton, and then hopefully you'll be able to come in. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
You can, loud and clear. So go for it. What's your question?
Okay. I'm Ketan Jariwala, owner of Celebrations Vanilla and quite a few shops on Ealing Road. I'm one of the most important pillar of Ealing Road. Now, the thing is, what I'm asking is, the Chancellor announced that council will be given a choice, a discrimination to give the grants. What is happening to that? We have not heard anything on that. As a middle-sized business, I haven't got any grants or anything. Definitely, my bank has given me the money, but which I have to return. They've given me a handsome amount because I have a very good turnover, and I'm in the middle range, so you understand my turnover is quite high. But what happened to the grants council was supposed to give us at that discrimination?
Okay, let me go to Paul. He did pick this up a little bit earlier. Paul, do you just want to go back over that discretionary grant?
Yes. So there is a discretionary grant which the Brent Council has, which is it's going to be for businesses that haven't received or haven't been eligible for government grants to date, and that discretionary grant should be available, or the process, the opportunity to apply for it should be in mid-June, and you can register now your interest in that discretionary grant. So if you haven't received any grant to date and you're interested in the discretionary grant, you can register interest by emailing business@brent.gov.uk. Sorry.
Hopefully that answers your question, Keaton. But also, I'm just going to bring Ruby in because you mentioned that you're on the Ealing Road. So
Yes.
Ruby, presumably this is a business that you know.
Yes, it is. And actually, I'd probably take Keaton offline because I'm speaking to the other owner, Kevin, who actually is Celebrations as well. So, Keaton, if you can hear me, I'll talk to you outside of this meeting because I do know that the business rates grants have been accessed. Venilals have actually accessed those business rates grants. So I'll chat with you outside of this meeting on that point.
Is that okay, Keaton?
No, I haven't received. Look, that's what I'm talking about. I run 4 shops on Ealing Road.
Yeah, Keaton, we understand, but I think that what we need to do is take this offline, and Ruby will pick up with you directly after this and talk to you offline. But we understand your concerns, and she'll pick that up directly with you. So it's good that you've raised that directly this morning. I want to just move on, if we can, to this issue that businesses are about to reopen. Many high streets we're hoping are going to come back to life. We don't know in reality how they're going to do that and how many people are actually going to be brave enough to come into the high street. So it's very much an unknown quantity. But there is a question from Nishit, who's running a training company, and he's a bit concerned in terms of inviting his learners back into the classroom. But obviously practical sessions are important, and he wants to know about the provision he can make, such as installing protected screens. I think they're called Sneed screens. Ruby, can I bring you in, because you're obviously working actively with businesses across the town around this whole area of bringing businesses back, what they should be doing to make their businesses safe and secure for both employees and customers, and also picking up this point about PPE. I know businesses have to supply their own, but what advice can the local authority be giving around what's required?
So we critically are using the government guidance on how businesses should be protecting themselves, and looking at not just their own premises but their neighbours as well, because of the queue requirement that's actually needed with social distancing. Businesses that I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks, before government even announced that there was going to be an easing of lockdown policy, was that they needed to actually they need to actually start ordering their antibacterial gel, their gloves, their masks. They need to actually get in touch with suppliers that actually do plexiglass, so that they're protecting their staff fundamentally and foremost, in order to actually open safely. So I've encouraged all the businesses to get together all of their staff, meet with them, discuss basically what their staff suggestions are, sort of a one-way system through shops. So each of the all of the advice that I've been giving is actually around the bespoke elements of that one business. So if there's a business out there that is really confused and doesn't actually know what to do, then I'm more than happy to pick that up with them and actually talk them through what limitations they may have within their own premises.
Okay, that's great. I'm coming over to Refik, because I know that you've done some work on this, and this is an area that you can help with advice as well.
Yes, I mean we're taking obviously the government advice, and we're sharing that across with businesses as well. And so I've had the inquiries. I've got a shop. I've got peak time coming up end of July. And how am I going to maintain the queues? This one particular business is a uniform shop, and obviously parents won't be able to touch the clothes, because any clothes that are touched, they have to be quarantined for about 3 days. So we're just trying to find creative ways of how these uniforms, for example, can be displayed on mannequins, perhaps outside the shop, and with all the information that parents can read about. And also, thinking about new services. So if they, set up a website that they can pay for the goods and then just come to the shop, a quick, pay and collect service. So this is something that businesses can look into doing as well, to avoid big queues mounting up on the high street, which is what we want to avoid as well.
Yeah. So on this sort of subject, I'm just going to come back to Lance for a moment. Because I know that there is a lot of guidance on the government website about what specific types of businesses need to do to ensure that they are compliant. And there is also a requirement to have, as you said earlier, to have completed the self risk assessments. The gentleman who runs the training company, he's asking, is it possible to allow a little less social distancing than 2 meters? But it really isn't at the moment. I know there's some talk that maybe the government are reviewing that, but at the moment I think I'm right in saying, Lance, that is the guidance, well, that is the rule.
Well, the rule is keep the social distance, but it also says that if you can't, then you've got to do everything you can to try and keep people safe.
Right.
So there is an element of flexibility in there.
Okay.
But what the training company has to do is understand what can they do and put everything in place that's possible to avoid the risk in the first place. So
I guess the best advice, Tanisha, would be probably to contact you and your team to maybe look at utilising that's the health and safety guidance that you're offering, to make sure that he's confident that if he is reopening and not able to do the 2 meters, that he's doing everything else he can to protect his colleagues and his customers. I guess that's the key thing there. There's also a comment that someone is saying that anti-bac gel will not suffice. It needs to be antiviral. So again, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going online that are buying these products, thinking that they're the right products, but maybe they're not. I don't know whether, as a local authority, coming to you, Paul, is there any guidance that Brent is giving in terms of directing people to the right places to buy these products?
I mean, we really refer people to the government guidance. We're falling in line really with what comes out from government. And just going to the government pages.
Okay.
That's really what we're doing.
Coming to Ruby, I think you know of some businesses locally that are able to provide this relevant PPE. Is that right?
That's right. There are a few local suppliers who we have a Wembley Traders Association WhatsApp group, and I'm more than happy to provide those local supplies if people want to actually keep it local in Brent. Then use these local supplies to actually order PPE and screens and any other kind of packages they may need to actually get their businesses up and running.
Okay, that's really helpful. I mean, I know there's a lot of people, sadly, that are trying to make a quick buck with this PPE, and it's not all compliant, and much of it is very, very expensive. So you do need to make sure that you are sort of buying the right stuff. Just for niche sheets, yes, we can share details for both Lance and Ruby. If both of you maybe could just reply to that, reply directly to Nishit with your contact details, so he can come back to you to pick up directly on his issue around reopening his training practice. That would be really helpful. Just sticking with you, Ruby, for a moment. So your high streets are about to reopen. Your businesses are having to think about, they are responsible for making sure their businesses are safe and that their customers are safe. How are you working collaboratively across the high streets? Because it isn't just about worrying about your business. You've got to be thinking about what your neighbours are up to as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. So critically, even before COVID-19 appeared, Brent have actually always had the approach with working really closely with town centre managers in order for the local economy to actually be at its utmost pivotal sort of execution of, like, making sure that profitability in the local economy is uppermost in people's minds. So we have actually met with all of our neighbouring, with all our different partners, including enforcement, licensing, highways, and we're working with them in order to make sure that customers and shops access all the town centres really safely. Hello?
Yeah, sorry.
Hi. Sorry.
We could hear you, but we lost your video momentarily.
Yeah.
I'm back now, so that's good.
So we're working in partnership with all the right council services in order to actually make sure that we have the best delivery for businesses and customers in the safest way.
So I think there is a really strong message here, isn't there, about collaboration. There is little point in just doing your own thing in isolation, because if your queue is going to crash into someone else's queue. So, definitely a message, and great that the town centre managers are here to help, but equally businesses need to step up to the plate and do it for themselves, and make sure that if they're thinking of reopening on or around the 15th, that they should have had conversations with their businesses. And I know, Ruby, you've got examples, through the current last few weeks where essential businesses have done that. In your high street.
Absolutely. So we have in Wembley, we've got Barclays, Poundland, Tesco's Express, Boots, all kind of adjacent to each other. And obviously they've turned to the council for help. But what we've done is we've managed to actually find business leaders. So Barclays and Boots have taken the lead in ensuring that they speak to their partners, their business neighbours, in order to actually get collaboration and in order for the customers to have the safest queuing system out there that's possible. I'm also speaking to, there's quite a few companies now that are actually looking at queuing systems, and there's a company called Q Smart that does these like little devices that will let customers know if for example, if the queue actually gets to an end of a queue and there isn't anywhere else to queue, then they can actually take this remote control and be buzzed back when the queue starts to actually shorten. So there's lots of novel ideas out there, and I'm speaking to a few companies to see whether or not we could actually implement them with those businesses actually paying as a partnership in order to actually make the queuing system, which is only going to get probably longer and more of an issue after the 15th of June.
I mean, I've heard of other examples, very simply a raffle ticket scheme, or even creating little laminated cards with your business name on it, numbered, and you give 10 people at a time numbers 1 to 10, so they know they can go away, and then you call them back in on their numbering system. Very cost effective. It doesn't cost anything really to implement, but those types of things. And I guess the other thing is to think about staggering openings, so that it might be that you all open at different times, so that you're not all trying to open up at the same time. I guess a lot of this is going to have to come over a little bit of trial and error, and we don't know to what extent people are going to come back into the high streets. And I think the other bit of advice that we've been giving is, you don't have to open on June the 15th. There isn't a law that says you must open on June the 15th. You need to decide financially what works for your business. And you might decide that after taking a few days or even a few weeks to just have a look and see exactly what is happening on the high street, what your neighbours are doing, what level of business your customers might have, and also talk to your customers right now. Conduct your own survey if you have the ability to do that through a database or other ways, social media. Find out from your customers whether they are wanting to come back, thinking of coming back. I guess this whole confidence thing is important. I'm just going to bring Paul back in because every local authority wants to ensure that their residents and the visitors feel comfortable and confident. And there is a question just around whether Brent Council have any. I know the answer is no to this, but it's about the generic point of sale, such as posters and stickers that we could access, so that there is a coherent visual message. I think that might be more around a marketing message that is saying Brent is open for business, and maybe if everybody shared that message in a uniform way, that would help with the confidence. Is that something that's being looked at?
Yes, I think it is. It is certainly something which we want to do, and I think one of the issues here with the whole sort of COVID thing is we want to return to business. We want business to return to trading. We want to do it safely, but we want to sort of don't want to sort of scare people. We want to encourage people to back into our town centres. So that's certainly something that we're going to be looking at, about how we can promote the town centres as open for business, and encourage people, reassure people that they can come back safely to our town centres. We do have a sort of a shop local scheme, which is around promoting, which was around before COVID, about supporting people to shop local, and that's certainly a branding which we're keen to promote.
Okay, that's great. We are approaching the end of our session this morning. I am aware that there is somebody with their hand up in the audience, and that's Charmaine. So I am very quickly, Charmaine, going to invite you in to talk. So if you can, I'll unmute you. If you can, hi Charmaine, what was the question you wanted to put to the panel this morning?
Hi. I think you've answered some of my questions already in terms of the business rates. As Paul said, that he will have to look into it a bit deeply, because I'm a new nursery business that's will open in Harlesden, and I've got a business rate that's built to me now, and demanding money. As I said, we're a new nursery. We haven't opened yet. We're still waiting for Ofsted to come. It's like a domino effect, really. And, if there's no income coming in, how can I make these payments? And also, being in this situation, I haven't had a grant or anything. So, I'm in a really, tough situation. However, I'm here to help the community, to help, get everybody, key workers back into work, provide childcare and everything like that. So, in Harlesden. So I'm here to support the community. And also, just to add before I finish, I have registered with Newable as well, with Rifat, and I would advise everybody who is in need, to register with them, Newable, because it's a great service, and she's doing such a good job, amazing job with me at the moment.
Fantastic. That's really good, and actually a really good way to end, because I think there's some really positive messages out there. We know that there are still some tough times ahead, but I think the message that's coming over this morning is that let's all collaborate, let's keep talking, and let's learn from each other, because we are all making this up as we go along, so we might as well share our experiences and our knowledge. And this morning has been about doing just that, and hopefully you have all found it helpful. I'm grateful to all of you that have interacted with us this morning, because it's really helpful and interesting to hear actual real life scenarios, and that is what this session is about, giving you that opportunity. This panel is available to you. We are sharing their contact details, and part of their commitment to Brent and the businesses in Brent is that they are available and willing to talk to you for free, so do please take advantage of that. I want to just give a shout out that next Tuesday at 8 a.m. There is a Brent for Business webinar, which is a networking opportunity. It's facilitated by the Federation of Small Businesses. It is free to attend, and Paul, I know you'll be circulating details of that, but if you could maybe drop that in the chat as well. That's a date for the diary. The other date for your diary is on the 2nd of July. We will be coming back to this webinar series. This is a monthly series. By the time we get to the 2nd of July, we'll probably know a lot more about how many people are going to be coming into the high streets. We'll be in a better position to talk about what is needed next, what's worked, what hasn't worked. We know there's going to be a need to be flexible. So for now, I want to thank you all again. A huge thank you to our panelists for giving up your time this morning. A reminder that you can watch this video on this webinar as a video, and we'll be circulating details on that. But for now, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, stay safe, and good luck for the next few weeks. We'll see you shortly. Thank you. Goodbye.